Hey guys, this is Ray with Double R Diesel. Welcome back to the channel and the shop once again. I hope each and every one of you guys are doing well and blessed. Starting right off, is it legal to delete trucks yet? No, still not legal. And if anybody out there in YouTube land is insinuating that emissions checks are over with and you can delete all you want legally, is not telling you the truth right now. But maybe, still maybe in the future, I'm hopeful that things will change. So going back to some things we talked about in prior videos, the proposal to do away with the endangerment finding is still on the table. That new proposal by the EPA is still open for public comment and debate. They have actually extended the period, I think, to, let's see, I believe it goes to September the 22nd now, if I'm reading everything correctly. So basically, the EPA's decided that, it's a lot, people have a right to make their petitions known, and they've extended the public comment period till September the 22nd. And, that means they've extended the time period in which, this may or may not happen. Personally, I think it will happen. I think the, political machine is there to make it happen. Will that instantly make deletes legal? No, absolutely not, because basically if they do away with the endangerment finding, that is just the building block in which all the enforcement the EPA has done has been built upon. It still does not change what's written in the Clean Air Act, and as long as the Clean Air Act is written the way it is currently, it really doesn't matter what the EPA may or may not do. It's still, the law's the law. And technically, if the EPA does not want to prosecute or fine anybody, then the Department of Justice could technically pick it up. And you might say, well, Trump's Department of Justice wouldn't do it. Well, when you talk about Trump's Department of Justice, it goes from Washington on down. And there's so many district offices, so many attorneys' offices throughout this country who are still run by, let's just say, people who are against diesels, would be more than happy to prosecute people for deleting trucks, no matter what's going on with the EPA, as long as the law is the law and they got that in their back pocket. Case in point. This is what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to bring up the story of an owner of a diesel business, Elite Diesel. It's been making some news here lately on social media, and the owner, Troy Lake Sr., was found guilty of conspiring to violate the Clean Air Act. And that is just the broad thing that they nail everybody on. They can do it civilly, like they did me, or they can do it criminally, like they did Mr. Lake. They'll just say, you were conspiring to violate the Clean Air Act by facilitating, aiding, selling parts, making tunes, blah, 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 whatever, and, offering for sale defeat devices and tuning that would disable federally mandated emissions equipment, which we all do know is very problematic. And that's the reason that drives sales of delete parts and tuning, because people ultimately want the cheapest fix to get around that problem and put it to bed for good. And I can't blame them. From my position, I understand it both ways. I understand the importance of being able to keep vehicles on the road economically. Also understand the importance of true motorsports. I also understand the performance of clean air. So I get it from all aspects. But my whole point in argument all along is just try to find that middle ground in which we all can move forward on. And, I personally still think that once a vehicle is past its warranty period, past its quote-unquote useful life on the emission systems, and the burden falls on us as owners to replace and maintain those systems, then I think at that point, then we should have the option to legally delete. Okay, that's just my opinion. Going back to Mr. Lake's case, so I'll put a link on the website, and you'll be able to actually go to the Department of Justice website and see the little article they had wrote up on Mr. Lake. It comes from the United States Attorney's Office, District of Colorado, and basically Mr. Lake had a business in Colorado, and he deleted heavy-duty trucks. And he also worked with other shops in different locations in the country to help them delete trucks, heavy-duty trucks. I don't think pickups was like his business. I think big rigs was his business. And we all know that big rigs are the backbone of transportation of commerce across this country. And we all know that keeping up the emission systems on these newer trucks is extremely expensive. You think a pickup is expensive. You want to try to keep the emission systems up on a big rig. We're talking like $30,000+ to replace emission systems on big rigs. And for the small owner operator who is struggling to make the payments on his $100,000+ truck, is very, very difficult to do. And when he's slapped with a $30,000 repair bill for a DPF SCR unit versus paying somebody a couple of $1,000s and the problem is solved forever, what do you think he's going to do? It's just common sense, okay? So anyway, Mr. Lake helped people delete big rigs, and he was caught by the government, and he was charged criminally. And as part of his sentencing, which he was just sentenced this past December 2024, right before Biden left office, how quaint, that he was hit pretty hard. So in this article, you can see all the people that who worked with him and got in trouble, but they were just merely fined. I think Mr. Lake was sentenced to prison. So he got about $50,000 worth of fines, and he was sentenced to a year and a day in prison, which my understanding, he's still in prison. And what I have, I've done some research on him, and I've come to find out that he is a very, I hate to use the term, appreciated prisoner. My understanding is he's helping in the prison where he's at. He's helping work in a shop, and he's like teaching guys how to work on diesel trucks. And he's actually doing a great thing while he's there, incarcerated. And, everybody there is like, my God, what's he there for? This guy ain't done nothing to hurt nobody. But the government, the Department of Justice at that time did not see it that way. And I'm not going to read all this jive here in this article, but basically they lay out the case that he helped delete so many trucks, and his the people that work with him deleted so many trucks, and they've released so much emissions, and they have harmed the environment and people in so many ways, and they're just terrible criminals, and they all deserve to be locked up. And they're better. I'm just paraphrasing here, but speaking in my own terms, but basically make the man look worse than a murderer. And my gosh, people, that is just not the case. But anyway, so he's in prison. He's also got fined. But what's been interesting is the Speaker of the House, local speaker from the state of Wyoming. We're not talking about federal. We're talking about the state of Wyoming's House of Representatives. And the Speaker of their House, Chip Neiman, actually has petitioned Donald Trump to pardon him. And he got some of his fellow lawmakers there from Wyoming and to reach out to the necessary people up in D.C. to actually get a pardon request to Donald Trump. You know, you don't get a straight line to Donald Trump. You have to go through a system. And anyway, there is a pardon attorney, and they wrote a letter. And I'll try to put this up where you can read it. But anyway, in this letter, Representative Neiman wrote the pardon attorney, Mr. Edward Martin in Washington, D.C. at the Department of Justice. And he says, "Dear Mr. Martin, we understand Wyoming legislators' right to respectfully request your consideration in working with President Trump to grant a presidential pardon to Mr. Troy Lake, a Wyoming small businessman." Keep in mind that, you know, he was charged in Colorado. I think he did have some ties to Colorado, but also Wyoming as well. And anyway, says a Wyoming small business owner of Elite Diesel who was unjustly, and I agree, prosecuted and convicted under the Clean Air Act by the Biden administration. Okay, let me back up just a second. So, in this Department of Justice article, it says the defendant, Mr. Lake, was sentenced by Judge Regina Rodriguez December 5th, 2024. I've done a little research on this Judge Rodriguez, and she's district court judge in Colorado, and she was appointed by none other than President Biden. See how that works? Anyway, in the letter written by Chip Neiman to the pardon attorney, he says in 2018, he lays out the case. Mr. Lake's business was raided by the FBI, EPA, and local law enforcement in full tactical gear. Okay? We've all heard it and seen it before. When they show up to a diesel performance shop or gasoline performance shop for that matter, and they're coming to make a criminal case, they're coming with guns a-blazing, okay? And they're going to storm in your shop, basically knock the door down, go through all your stuff, clean, swipe, get the information off all your computer hard drives, and just have their way and treat you like a dirty, low-down, rotten criminal, and they will hold you at gunpoint. That's just how you get treated when you are raided criminally by the EPA. And for folks, just as a reminder, that has happened as recently this past spring. I know personally of a shop owner out in Idaho that was raided by the EPA, and they did him the same way. Okay, so it's still going on. It's not because Donald Trump wants it to happen. It's not because Pam Bondi necessarily wants it to happen. But you've got all these field offices that are still following the law. I mean, it's the law, it's the Clean Air Act, and they can prosecute, okay? So that's what happened. Anyway, he was raided by the EPA, FBI, local law enforcement. Anyway, it says in this letter, his alleged crime was modifying diesel engines by disabling federally mandated emission systems which are widely documented to cause severe reliability issues. I agree, including engine failures. I agree, vehicle fires. I know it. Reduce fuel efficiency for sure. Exorbitant repair costs that fall hardest on truckers, small businesses, and public services. Amen. Mr. Lake's modifications, by contrast, ensured the safety and reliability of critical vehicles, including school buses that transport Wyoming children each day, often in harsh conditions. Bingo. Despite the clear public benefit of his work, Mr. Lake was convicted of conspiring to violate the Clean Air Act. For this, he was sentenced to 12 months and 1 day in federal prison at a prison in Colorado, fined $52,500, and permanently branded a felon. That's another thing. Once you get convicted of this, charged criminally, you are a felon for life. And if you don't know, when you are charged as a felon, you can't own guns legally, and you cannot no longer vote. As a result, he lost his livelihood, his fundamental rights of American citizens, including his right to vote and Second Amendment rights. The Trump administration is right to begin the process of repealing the EPA's flawed and unscientific endangerment findings. See, they're citing the endangerment finding and this possible repeal of that, which provided regulatory pretext for prosecutions such as Mr. Lake's. Yep, like I said that before. His case is not one of justice, but of a politically weaponized regulatory state targeting hardworking Americans through bureaucratic overreach and activist course. Yes, indeed. Indeed, the presiding judge, a Biden appointee, even admitted she thought to make an example of Mr. Lake, a clear sign that his punishment was about politics, not about fairness. Mr. Lake is a husband, father, and community member who's been egregiously wronged by an unelected bureaucracy, wielding power Congress never gave it. On behalf of his family, community, and fellow Wyomingites, I respectfully urge President Trump to restore his good name and fundamental rights through granting a full pardon. We deeply appreciate your leadership in defending the rights of the American people against government overreach, respectively, Chip Neiman. Okay, guys, so yeah, he's only got a year and a day in prison, but like we've mentioned here, when you're charged as a criminally, you're a felon for life, and that has implications forever and ever. Thus why a pardon, I think, should be given among everybody else who's been charged criminally for this, okay? And I know people will argue with me. You know, people's going to say the law's the law, and you broke it, and you got charged for it. And people would say I should have been charged criminally as well. I was charged on the civil side. But here's the thing. The punishment does not fit the crime, okay? There is many, 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 many more worse things that humans have done and yet have not gone to jail for. Okay? I'm not going to get into specifics, but you guys can probably name a list a mile long of stuff people have done who were never charged criminally for, okay? So, stop it. Enough. The Department of Justice needs to stop criminally going after people who are facilitating deletes, okay? They're doing it, yes, to make money, but the demand is driven by legitimate causes, because this stuff that is strapped on diesel vehicles will cause problems at some point and cost the consumer a lot of money. That's the bottom line, okay? Regardless whether they actually do anything about it or not, but that's the truth, okay? Guys, I just wanted to show this case to you, get you to comment on it, share it. The more noise that's brought about because of this, the better. You know, think about it like this. What better way to get attention to our cause by getting the President of the United States involved? Sending this guy to the President's desk looking for a pardon. When this, if this reaches the President's attention, he will have to read this. He will have to understand the case. He will be aware of what's going on. And, the more our leaders in D.C. understand the dilemma, the problem, the better chances they will do something about it. I mean, that's just common sense. So I think this is huge. I hope Mr. Lake gets his pardon. More importantly, I hope the leaders in Washington, D.C. Catch on to this. I really hope and pray Donald Trump hears about this and gets something, does everything that he can to make some changes and get some reform, okay? We're moving in the right direction. We've gotten some actual regulation changes with regards to D-rates and deaf diesel exhaust fluid problems. But we all know there's more to be done. There's more than just DEF that causes D-rates. There's, DPFs, EGRs. That's yet to be addressed. We've got the endangerment finding being looked at, possibly going to be repealed. Another big thing is House Resolution 4117, okay? That's really, really big. I need to talk to you guys about that briefly. 4117 is actually legislation that could possibly rewrite, repeal Section 202 of the Clean Air Act. And if that happens, then you could make a case for legal leach just based upon changes in the law. Without 202, 203, which prohibits defeat devices, 202 is the backbone for 203, in my opinion. So let's hope 4117 gets picked up or something done about it. I've heard some talk about possibly that the language, the whole thing in House Resolution 4117 might be tacked into the next budget bill that's got to be taken up and done something, by the 1st of October, I think. So watch that. Let's see what happens there. But guys, keep putting pressure on your lawmakers any way that you possibly can. The more noise we make, the more attention that's given to it, the greater possibility something will be done about it. As always, guys, thank you for following along. I'll be doing more videos. We'll be talking about the 25 truck that I've got. I'm going to fill you up guys in on how that's doing in another video. But as always, guys, God bless you, and we will see you again soon.